Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for another edition of Viewpoint and DBS Television. Viewpoint, our guests are here tonight to give you their ideas concerning certain topics evolving in our society, and focused in today's edition we'll be talking about the coronavirus. We'll be talking about issues also out of the country but still focused or centered on the coronavirus. With here in the studio we are having a lady and a gentleman. He is not new and she is not new, but then you'll have an interesting moment with both of them. I'm talking of Mr. Kang Gogomos. He is a legal mind practitioner, and Cynthia Guemo. She is a journalist. I'll begin with the lady first of all. Cynthia, good evening and thank you very much
for being
Vanessa,
part of us. And thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Kang Gogomos, it's a pleasure having you again.
Mine too, being here once more.
All right, let us take a transition. Like usually, the program is divided into two parts. Let us take the first part. Welcome back. Question 1. Does the decision to prolong the handling of COVID-19 corpses have any impact in the fight against the coronavirus? I begin with you, the lady, Cynthia.
For me, that's a yes.
It's a yes, it does. Mr. Kang, what do you say about that?
I don't think so. I am against.
No. Question 2. After 100 days of coronavirus, has Cameroon succeeded in containing the pandemic? I begin with you, Mr. Kang.
No, Cameroon has not been able.
No. Cynthia?
I agree. It's a no.
It's a no. And our last question for tonight is the World Health Organization objective in approving the UK's coronavirus vaccine. I begin with the lady, Cynthia.
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't. And to you, sir?
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't. All right. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for the debate. It's getting interesting. In our first question, we are seeking to know whether the decision to prolong the handling of COVID-19 corpses have any impact in the fight against the virus. And Cynthia, you think that it has an impact? You think that it's going to modify our ways or Cameroonian ways in fighting the coronavirus pandemic? Why so?
Yeah, I do think the decision to prolong the handling of coronavirus corpses by 2 more days, that's 48 hours, it's going to have an impact on the spread of coronavirus and even in the way in which we ourselves handle the coronavirus pandemic itself. Well, for me, this is a two-phase thing because first of all, there is this concern that many people have ever since the decision was taken, and the concern is particularly on the contamination rate. It is true that there are measures that are being put in place to make sure that people, that's the relatives and the family members of the victims, don't get into physical contact with the corpses, but still there is still a high chance of contamination, not only for the family members but even for the health personnel that are handling the corpses, because we have to agree that the faster they get rid of the corpses, the more it is easier to avoid the risk and the danger of contamination. But now that we have to deal with the corpses longer than usual, we have to, I don't know, the procedure that they take before the burial. I heard of a glass, something like that, where people can stand and observe and all the like. But the concern mainly is for the medical personnel, the people that are handling the issue themselves. They are at a higher risk of getting contaminated. And on the other hand too, I think there is a positive side to it somehow, because at first they were buried in such a rush that family members didn't even get to say goodbye the way they would want to, and it was really something deplorable for many people. And now if they have a little bit more time,
chance of even seeing
to even say goodbye, there was no last chance like that. And now people are happy about it because at least they get a little bit of time to bring family members together and to organize a little something to give the final farewell to the person. But in general, I think the first measure was necessary the fact that it was instilled that way, once someone dies of coronavirus, they get buried immediately. I think that was the safest thing to do.
All right, to avoid them coming together, to avoid
exactly.
crowds.
And I think when it comes to something like that, it is very contagious, and I think we can never be too careful when it comes to something like that.
All right, thank you for your viewpoint, Mr. Kang. Cynthia tonight is telling us that it will have a great impact in the fight of coronavirus, the decision to prolong the handling of COVID-19 corpses, but you are not for the fact.
I am not for that fact, and I will start by querying Madam Cynthia on an issue. I don't know if your debate is based on the positive or the negative. What I could pick from what you debated was more of an ambiguity, like jumping from left to right and from right to left. You are prancing like a card. What we are saying here is the effects of extending the period of handling corpses of coronavirus cases within the Cameroonian context. I don't know, because from the onset we were made to understand that the contamination rate is extremely high, and even post-mortem tests have proven that people can still be contaminated with the corpses. And the government just gets up in the morning and decides to say they will extend the period of handling corpses to a period of 48 hours. What is the effect? What is the health effect of extending the period of handling these corpses is my main bone of contention. And I want us to observe it from this viewpoint. The longer we stay with the corpse, the higher the risk of contaminating more and more human beings.
But all measures have been put in place, all precautions are being put in place to enable that the doctors will handle the corpse in such a way that the families will not get in contact with it directly.
That is true, madam. That is what the media is telling us. That is what the government is telling us. And I want to find out from you, if we human beings in views, observations over issues are ever 100% accurate. Now, generally it is no. Generally it is no, that we are not 100% accurate. And based on that fact, therefore, I will ask you, or I will try to find out from you, or try to coin you to see from my viewpoint, whether is it not better to that is, it is better to stay away from a problem rather than solving a problem. So from my view, I think it would have been better that we behave like the Muslims do. Immediately somebody passes out, we bury in order to curb the chances, the high risk of contaminating is 78%. Okay. Which is extremely delicate.
So permit me to bounce back. You started your point by talking about ambiguity in what I said. First of all, I want to believe that we are not in an argument where we are both permitted to give what we think, and like you said, nothing is ever 100%.
Correct.
So there is a positive side to it which some people see, but you still came back to agree with me that looking at it from a bigger perspective, a general perspective, let's say it is 80 or at least 70% more risky to have the corpses, to keep the corpse for longer than before. So we are both on the same point finally, saying that it does have an effect. There is an impact, of course, and of course it is a negative one because chances of contamination are increased, and like I said, we can never be too careful. So the old system was a better one still.
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your point of view. I'm happy that you have come to a term of
finally.
All right. Let us take our second question. After 100 days of coronavirus, has Cameroon succeeded in containing the pandemic? Mr. Kang, you think that they have not succeeded? Over 100 days and few days. What makes you think they have not succeeded compared to what people have been predicting that is going to happen?
Good. I think the government of the country has not been able to contain the pandemic on many grounds. One, on a daily basis, when we follow the news on the CRTV, this day, 15 Cameroonians have been contaminated and 30 have recovered. We have not registered a death case, we are celebrating. My issue is not the number of people who are recovering. My issue is with the people who are getting contaminated. Now, if Cameroon were to contain it, Cameroon would have been telling us, or the media would have been telling us, that today we registered no case and we have 17 cases that have recovered and there is no death. Even with the so many herbal treatments that are said to litter around. I can remarkably remember that of Dr. Fru. I can remember that of the Archbishop of the Douala Diocese, Bishop Kleda, and so on. I want to think that Cameroon has to revise its strategy to be able to contain this pandemic after 3 months and 10 days. For each day, the health practitioners, the health personalities keep insisting, sending the military on the roads and others, that people, Cameroonian citizens, should be checked on how they respect the
barrier
measures. This is just to make us understand that if we are not careful, the worst is yet to happen in Cameroon. And like I say, Cameroon has not been able to contain it, and I am afraid, with the laxity that I see in the streets and in gatherings, in a few weeks or a few months, if better measures are not put in place, we will not know Cameroon the way it is now.
Probably likely because of the stubbornness of civilians to respect these barrier measures. Because when they ask them, do not come into gatherings of more than 50 people, you see the contrary. Put on your face masks, you see the contrary. Wash your hands regularly, it's all about the contrary.
Fortunate or unfortunate, madam, I do not look at the stubbornness of the citizens. I rather look at the laxity of the forces of law and order. When an instruction is passed by the government, we have the forces of law and order who have to go in place. They have to do everything, work tooth and nail, to make sure that the state's decision is perfectly implemented. Fortunate or unfortunate, I am not pointing an accusing finger at a particular individual, but it is general.
It is general.
That the forces of law and order have gone to a distance where individuals who are found guilty of breaking the law, breaching that law, are not booked for punishment or correction accordingly. Okay. They receive under the table compensations and let go. I have cases in which the military have come when we were still talking of the closing of bars and so on at 6 p.m. When the military have come, arrested people at 8:30 p.m., 9 o'clock, and in less than no time, those people are allowed to move freely in the streets and nothing is said about it. I begin to wonder how these people were released. And that is why I am saying, and I'm repeating here, that if the government does not put in place further stricter measures to contain this virus, we will not know Cameroon
to
be what it is in a few weeks or in a few months.
In a few months. Thank you for your viewpoint. Cynthia, after 100 days, we are talking of over 10,000 cases that have been detected in Cameroon. And you think that we have not succeeded in containing the virus?
Yeah, in this situation, I strongly agree with Mr. Khan. And I think he has said all what needs to be said already, that Cameroon, I don't think we are really serious when it comes to containing or fighting the coronavirus. And the main issue here is indiscipline. Indiscipline on the part of we Cameroonian citizens. Indiscipline for the reason that we do not follow the barrier measures that that's the least things we can do to prevent the spread of coronavirus. We neglect it. You see, at the beginning when they imposed the wearing of masks, social distancing, and all the other measures, they were really followed. If you saw it, you went out in the streets, almost everybody had their mask on. People were washing their hands and buying hand sanitizers. But now, I was in the market just yesterday, and you won't imagine, in an area full of hundreds or thousands of people, you could even hand count, you could hand pick the number of people that had their face mask on. Imagine in a place like in a market. Then you ask yourself, with this kind of attitude, how are we supposed to contain coronavirus? So we are failing woefully in the fight against coronavirus, and in barely 100 days, we are already counting amongst the top 3 or 4 African countries having the highest number of cases of coronavirus. So if we continue in the same way, then I don't know where we shall be. Let's say in the next another 50 days, I don't know where we shall be, and we shall be counting the number of deaths in thousands as well. And it is really a sad situation, because the fault then is not only on us, the citizens, it is also on the authorities, like he said, because the laxity is prospering because the authorities are failing to really implement them. I believe that if in your neighborhood, for instance, if you realize that your neighbor walks without putting on a mask, he got arrested and he was forced to pay the fine or face the consequences, I don't think you would even have the courage to also go out without your face mask on. So the laxity that the government officials or the authorities in place supposed to follow up these measures are having, it is the same laxity that is spreading and contaminating, because even those who were serious at the beginning, now everybody is just relaxed. Yeah. And if we continue this way, then I'm afraid of what the future has for us when it comes to coronavirus.
So could we even say that we went into confinement, given that the bars were eased?
Exactly.
Drinking spots, leisure centers, but
were opened in less than no time. And I remember hearing a lot of comments about the reopening of bars and lifting of certain measures. You could hear people say it out loud that if they have permitted us to sit in the bars and drink, it means coronavirus is over. It means there is no longer any coronavirus. People said that, and there are people truly believe that coronavirus doesn't even exist because of the freedom they have, the measures. And I must also say that in the countries where you saw that they really succeeded to tackle this virus, if you check keenly, discipline was the key. In countries like China, they started it, but before you knew it, they were able to tackle it because discipline was key. They said everybody indoors, everybody was indoors, and that is how they succeeded to tackle it, because of discipline. So if we don't adopt that same discipline, then
we'll not do it. Like some other African countries, the civilians are accusing the police of, they're accusing the law enforcement for police brutality. But then Cameroonians are very stubborn. Should that not be used in a subtle way to push them or to submit them to respect these barrier measures, Mr. Khan?
Madam, it is a general notion with the African child or the African man that you must hammer hard. You must use the cane in order to correct Africans. It's not only Cameroon in particular.
Exactly. If you authorize laxity, there would be laxity.
The government of this country, like I said, will repeat what happened in 1918. I'm talking of the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu contaminated 500 million human beings within a period of 2 years and killed 50 million. And the only solution to the Spanish flu were the barrier measures.
Yeah, the barrier measures.
Yeah.
And the World Health Organization is actually warning still, like the second wave of warning the African continents that the cases keep on rising.
Now, Cameroon, like I said earlier, should go back onto the drawing board. For us to contaminate this virus, we must go back to the drawing board.
For us to contain
the virus.
We go to the drawing board, we implement stricter measures, we make sure that the forces of law and order go out to the streets, apply the laws into two, keep away bribery and corruption, and look at the lives of human beings more than the tips they will receive. They themselves should depict exemplary measures. You cannot come to control me for not wearing a face mask and you yourself not having yours.
Have a mask either.
I mean, the era is past gone when we used to say, do what I am telling you and not what I do. At times, when they come to do the control and then they come very lax, no hand sanitizers, you see them going closer to each other and clinging. And then, I mean, it becomes very, very clear that some of us will begin to wonder if this virus actually exists in this country.
In this country.
And I am still pleading with the government. Please, the government of Cameroon should go into better decisions that will help us to contain this virus.
If not, If not, a question mark. All right, that leads us to our third question for tonight. Is the World Health Organization objective in approving the UK's coronavirus vaccine? And Cynthia, you don't think so. It just came out. It is early this week that we heard of the dexamethasone vaccine that is coming from the UK, and that is already being put to test, that the World Health Organization has, let me say, validated. But then when it came to Africa with our COVID organics, with our herbal solutions, they are still hesitant. What makes you think? Why do you think they are not objective?
Well, I think you have explained it all already, because if you look into this situation, there is really no objectivity at all. Because Africa was one of the first people to really propose I'll call it a treatment that we could really say it works to an extent. It is true that we cannot say it is effective 100%, but it was actually very promising. And so far, one of the main reasons for which the WHO still didn't approve the COVID-19 treatment that was manufactured, or that was brought about from Madagascar, is that they said they have not been able to prove the effectiveness of how much it really works. And this far, we are still been waiting that they do the research necessary and tell us that we found out that this drug has so and so side effects and so on. It is actually bad and not good. But in less than no time, the UK, one of the universities in the UK, they come up with a proposal, a treatment, and immediately they say, wow, this is it. So what does it mean? That the fact that it comes from their own part of the world, the Western world, it means automatically it is better and more promising than what Africa has to propose? If this is the way it is going to be, then I think there is really no objectivity in it, because I believe that we Africans have a lot to offer. We have so much to put on the table, but the fact that there is this inferiority, I think they always say we Africans have inferiority complex and all the like. I think it doesn't begin from us, it begins from there. Because when they already show you that nothing good can come from you, that whatever comes from you is not good enough, then that is where the problem is. So the WHO, I think
they feel threatened by the African continent.
Exactly. I think they need to give equal chances to every part of the world and everybody who has a possible solution to this problem. It is not because it comes from Africa that it deserves less attention than what comes from their own part of the world. So the objectivity, I don't see it at all. And I do hope that with time, because that was the same thing with hydroxychloroquine, it was originally an African thing. They have been doing their on and off on it, and finally they have cancelled again completely hydroxychloroquine testing for coronavirus. So
the testing has been suspended.
It has been suspended once more after the on and off. So objectivity, I don't think there's any.
You don't see it. Mr. Kang, you are supporting Cynthia's point of view.
I want to think that the white man claims superiority, like she said. And I do look at it from the viewpoint of racial segregation. They think that the white man is superior, and it runs back historical memory lane to one of the reasons why they claim they were coming to annex or claim territories in Africa. The white man said they wanted to spread their civilizations and to remove us from darkness. And I really wonder, a vaccine actually is not a treatment. A vaccine is not a treatment. A vaccine is a prevention.
Yeah.
Now, medically, in a research I came across, the period of time which is needed to confirm or refuse a vaccine to be effective, and the limited time, the least time that could be used to evaluate whether a vaccine is could be accepted or rejected was 6 months. I am talking of a vaccine and not a treatment. Was 6 months. And a university, if I can recall the COVID-19 stuff, the outbreak was in December, around December 19th or so.
December, yes, 2019.
Yes. Correct. And we are just at most 6 months. And nobody will claim to tell us that the same day the outbreak started, they started working on the vaccine. And then we have had cases where African herbs have been used to treat people
effectively.
Initially tested to be positive, And after the administration of the African herbs, the people are tested negative.
Mm-hmm.
True. We will also say the period of the 6 months was not observed to check on the side effects of the African herbal treatments. But I want you and I to judge this on the screen of truth and take only the good that comes through. That will you accept to allow somebody die instantly, or you administer a treatment to that person which will sustain that person's life, and maybe after 10 or 15 years you can now experience the effects of it? I want to think that
all the results.
Yes, or the results, so to say. I want to think that if the World Health Organization is going ahead to approve the vaccine from the UK, then there is a lot of segregation. The white man does not see anything good from Africa. Was it not the same situation when Vanivax was produced in Cameroon? The World Health Organization played around, only to come back to embrace it as a treatment. Has it not been the same situation that the white man has refused herbal treatments from Africa, but inwardly
they use the components,
have seen that it is treating Africans and there is no health effect? If truly the World Health Organization thinks that treatment can come only from the white man, I stand with Africans. I am soliciting Africans of goodwill, Africans who have Africa at heart, to support me to stand against the fact that if they confirm their vaccines, then those vaccines should be administered in the Western world and allow us and allow Africa for Africans. And if that is done, I want to tell you, there are certain trees here in Cameroon that Chinese will come. When they go around and detect such a tree, the whole of that forest area is bored. And when that tree is cut, even the roots, the leaves, the dust, the soil dust is picked, and we don't know where it goes to. What do you think is the objective of the white coming to take this? They want to come and take our valuables, the same valuables that our ancestors have been using in the past to treat themselves, to treat us, and we are still strong today, to now go and maybe grind it, create a beautiful container and put it inside and come back to tell us that it's a vaccine. Let them check on what came first, test it, approve or disapprove of it before they begin to come to vaccines. We want treatments and not vaccines.
You want treatment and not vaccines. So what could you say, like we're about to end the show? What
I am thinking that I am advising that insofar as our African brothers have produced herbal treatments to the COVID-19, which we are seeing their positive results, Africans shouldn't relent taking the African concoctions, if the white man calls them so, and if these concoctions are treating us, we will accept them to be concoctions, because the white man says we do not have those laboratories which can actually test and bring out the substantial value of the African treatments. That was their problem. And I don't know if after treating over 1,000 Cameroonians with Cledas treatment, the World Health still does not see reason why they can approve it.
Why they can approve it?
It's just a bias. That's my take. It's just a bias.
And to you, Cynthia, maybe a word to our televiewers watching us, or to Africans in general who are feeling the same things that you guys are feeling here on that plateau.
I'm just going to go in the same line with Mr. Khan, saying that if they don't believe in us, the Western world, they don't believe in us and in our potential, then we have to believe in ourselves, because I think we are really on a good path when it comes to inventions, and particularly in this domain. So let us keep believing in ourselves and let us keep going as much as we can in order to bring a solution to this. And we shall also say that if they think our treatments are not good enough and they happen to find their vaccines better, then let them begin with themselves, test it with themselves, and not bring it to us and make it be as if to say ours is nothing while theirs is everything. So I think we have what it takes.
All right, thank you very much, Cynthia, and to you, Mr. Kang, thank you very much for being part of us tonight. And to you, televiewers, it has been our pleasure. Thank you too for watching, because if you are not there, we won't be here. So hope that you got their point of view and what are you thinking back at home. Fruit for thoughts. Stay tuned, and we will be seeing you back again on Monday, God willing.